Greetings, Jordan Creek Church family. It's good to see you, at least virtually. It's obviously been a while since we have been together as a church family, but this is going to start happening moving forward. You'll start seeing our teaching elders actually introducing the videos that are going to come out on a continued weekly basis with our e-platform series, just as a way for us to continue to stay connected. When we first started this thing, we thought it was just going to be, maybe 4 or 5 weeks, but obviously it looked like we're going to be in this pattern for a little while yet. So moving forward, every week we'll have a teaching elder introduce the videos that we're sending out. And so speaking of that, last week, if you were able to, if you haven't, I'd encourage you to go back and watch it. We had a video by a couple people, Dave and Ann Wilson, a married couple that did a great job practically on talking about conflict. It just seems like, especially in the last week, talking to people, I've noticed it in our own life, like there just seems to be a raising level of emotional intensity as the weeks tick by here in quarantine and pandemic stuff, and the added stress that goes with that. And I know Lindy and I have experienced it, our kids. And so it's a really good message just practically to think about how do we handle those conflicts and find resolution. But the last point that they made in that message was to submit to Jesus. And so we thought we'd build off that this week. And so we looked for a message that was really practical around spiritual formation, around how do we do that? How do we turn ourselves towards Jesus? How do we submit to Him? How do we be Christ followers in the midst of this difficult time? And so we found a really great one by a guy named Matt Chandler. He's a pastor down in Dallas of the church called The Village. And he's going to use the Great Commandment, Matthew 22, verses 34 through 40. I've got that here. This is what it says. But when the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together, and one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question to test him. Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law? And he said to him, You shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart, and with all of your soul, and with all of your mind. And that's where Matt's going to spend a lot of his time. This is the great and first commandment, and a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law and the prophets. And so, we've got more time on our hands, but sometimes it doesn't feel like that. I don't know if you've sensed that in your life. You can have like 7 things on your to-do list, and yet the distractions of the day, the inconsistencies, like I said, there's a simmering. It's been continuing in all of us. And so we wanted to help our church family think through how can we continue to form ourselves in this situation. If we're honest, it's an adverse situation. It's difficult. All of us have had some type of suffering, some type of loss that we've had to go through or are going through in this. And so this is an opportunity for us to continue to grow, to continue to choose to be Christ followers. Because that was one of when we met as elders to start this deal, our 2 main focuses were connection. And so to speak to that, if you have not heard from, or not getting a text or a phone call from someone with JCC, please reach out and let us know. We really want to make sure that we stay connected with one another. No one should feel isolated or out on their own during this time. That's what family means. We care for one another. And then secondly was to grow in our discipleship. And as I just mentioned, it's an adverse situation. And these are opportunities for us to ask some deeper questions about really who we are and why we do what we do. And those are moments that God wants to inform us about who we are and why we do what we do. And that's why this message today will be really good to think about what does it mean, again, like I said, to turn towards God. And Matt's going to do a great job. He's going to talk to us about being like Paul or being like Peter, and most of us are like Peter. And one of the passages he's going to read from is also 2 Corinthians 3 about how our Christian lives they just slowly sometimes tick towards becoming more like Christ. And this is the passage that he's going to help us understand with that. But when one turns to the Lord, the veil is removed. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And we, with unveiled face, beholding the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit. And I love that part, one degree of glory to another. It doesn't happen like automatically. And life right now has definitely a sense of some ups and some downs. And so this is just a great message to remind us about how to continue to be formed in Jesus in the midst of where we are at. So we hope it blesses you. May you continue to be encouraged and strengthened. If there's anything you need, please reach out to us so that we can continue to stay connected. Know that we are praying for you as our church family. And yeah, until we see you again.